On the phone line with us now is Gloria, but you may know her as a different name, Cherry Cola from the Foo Fighters Concert. Hey, thanks so much for joining us here today. I have to ask, did you know what was coming? Did you know Dave Grohl was going to kind of point you out like he did?
No, that Dave was going to do that. No, I had no idea.
It seemed pretty impromptu. Were you planning to come to Casper for some other reason, or were you just coming to the show?
I just go to the shows when I can. I'm retired. So I have to watch my concert dollars. But I've seen them several times, and especially since my husband passed away. And so I kind of go to the shows in my husband's honor. And I have met Taylor and Chris, Taylor Hawkinson, Chris Shiflett in the past, and they knew what was going on, but they didn't, they didn't make a big deal about it, but they were glad to see me there, though.
That's pretty cool. And may I ask, were those dog tags your husband?
Yes, my husband was in the U.S. Navy for 21 years. He was a great military man. He had been honored several times by the Department of the Navy, by the Secretary of the Navy, President George Bush #2.
Wow.
And he enjoyed his career. I enjoyed his career with him because I did get to meet a lot of really great people as well. But when I first met Michael, he was a huge Nirvana fan, and I was the wife that would I'd go into the den and go, turn that stuff down. and he would just ignore me. And after Kurt Cobain passed away, he floated right into Dave Grohl's first album as Foo Fighters, and it just continued on. And of course, a couple of times it was turn that stuff down. but later on along the way, my husband had been into a couple of situations over in Saudi Arabia and in the Persian Gulf. And then we lost 3 very good friends of ours in the Pentagon on 9/11.
No.
And after all of that and the tumbling down that happened, he took his own life in 2007. So I wear his ashes and his dog tag with me every show I go to. So, and that's in his honor and his love for Foo Fighters. And of course, it turned out with me, I'm like, oh my God, I can't get it off. And I'm 63 years old, and I'm still enjoying every minute of it.
I know. I saw that on the cam, but you kind of, clutching those, and I recognize that instantly. There's something bigger there. I mean, I felt that, and here in Wyoming, we have a high rate of suicide, and it's something that here at the station we actively try to reach out for outlook or support. Strong doesn't necessarily mean silent. I appreciate you having the courage to tell this story.
I mean, I do share it as often as I can, and when I'm just emotionally able to, because sometimes I get caught up in the emotions coming back, and that's normal. But I do talk to other veterans. I talk to veterans from World War I. I've actually talked to veterans from World War II that had thought many times about taking their own lives, and for some reason they were drawn back in and refused to. I've talked to veterans from Vietnam. I've talked to veterans from coming back from the Gulf, coming back from Afghanistan. I was a volunteer at Baltimore Washington International Airport bringing flights back to the U.S. from Germany and, matter of fact, from Ireland as well. And I would sit and talk to them for a little while about here and there, and it was, it's okay to discuss it, but it's also, too, it's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. These guys, they were macho military men, and all of a sudden, in a time of desperation, it's very difficult for them to say, hey, help me. And, I live close to a VA hospital here in Denver, and it's amazing how some have just become so strong after, asking for the help, and they're just passing it along. And it's great to see. It's sad to see in the beginning, and not everybody is as lucky when it comes time to finally reach out and ask for help. it's a very sad moment. And I talk to a lot of family members too, so I just don't stay in my own little, my own little circle. I try to get out there and do as much as I can when I can. So, because I know the anguish and the, and the sadness and all that goes with it. So
very inspirational, and to kind of hear that from you. Just curious, did you have any kind of connections with Casper or Wyoming kind of before the show?
No, I did not, and it was just it's just like somebody asked me when I went to Washington D.C. in October to see Foo Fighters there at a brand new venue, and they were like going, "Why?" And I'm like, "Well, I grew up in the D.C. area, so that was a given." But as far as Wyoming goes, I set my little app, on my phone for directions, and off I went. But everybody that I met during that 24 hours that I was there were just wonderful. You've got great people there that are so welcoming, and they're just so warm. And I really enjoyed it. And I hope to go back. I'm a big nerd when it comes to like dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
And but I want to go back to Wyoming and look more into the digs that are going on there as well. Stay active. When you start getting old, get up and go.
Words to live by there.
Just don't stop going.
Don't stop going.
Don't stop going. So
it was so fun to watch, and I think everyone, at the show kind of felt that with you, and were, cheering with you, and especially now that I, hear that the rest of that story. I mean, if you could say anything to, I doubt Dave Grohl will ever hear this, but if you could talk to him right now, would you like to say something to him?
Yeah. Yeah, watch your mouth. Some of the things you say I have heard before, trust me. No, he is an amazing talent, and I think it goes back to his mother, who basically raised him, as far as the story that I know goes. Yeah, Dave, I'm talking to you. But he is a great family man, and that's what I love about the band altogether. They're all family men. They stick with their families. The families travel with them from time to time, and it's amazing, and I admire that. So yeah, Dave, you are a never mind, I can't say that. But it was a joy for me, and I know my husband was like looking down from above, going, "Damn it, I wish I could have been there." But my husband was just such a joy. But I tell you what, with everything that he saw, what he went through, and the poor guy just became an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I had him committed to the VA hospital on 4 different occasions, and they just kept giving him more drugs and sent him home with more drugs. And he just got so frustrated with it, he just took them all at one time. So, it's just sometimes the VA can work their magic, and sometimes they leave a lot of guys out there on the streets. I don't want to get into that political part of it, but some are saved and some are not, and it's just really sad. But my husband was a wonderful guy. That's why I married him.
Yeah.
But but he's the one that took me from Rick Springfield into the Dave Grohl crowd.
He converted you to rock and roll.
Oh my God! Yeah, well, I've been following Rick since 1982. So, and I've met a lot of really awesome, people through that. I've been with him on different occasions, and he's like, "Come on, let's go, follow us around," and we'd have a good time. But I can't afford both things.
Yeah.
I can't do Foo and Rick. So.
Yeah.
And just remember what Dave, when he was asking me my name and I couldn't get it out to him, he said a couple of weird things, and then he said, "Cola, cherry, cola." Is that? Mm-hmm. And he says, "I'll be your royal crown if you'll be my cherry cola," and that's what started the whole thing.
Yep.
It's crazy. So